Well, a very good evening to all of you, first of all. Mr. Ashok, Mr. Thampi, other dignitaries on the dais, delegates to this convention, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, my dear students, who I believe will be the key participants as well as the key beneficiaries of this convention. First of all, I would like to thank KMA for inviting me here and allowing me to share some of my thoughts. This is actually the second occasion that I am coming to interact with KMA. The last one was about a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago. So, experiencing what happened in that conference, how well it was organized, and seeing how well this conference is being organized and how well it is being attended, I know that you people are adept at organizing such conferences and very good at it. So first of all, congratulations to all of you for organizing such a wonderful conference. This topic is a very important topic in many ways. And as I am scheduled to talk at the valedictory address tomorrow evening at some length, I am going to limit my observations only to maybe 2 or 3 sentences, maybe within the next 5 minutes. You know, if you look around the world and look at what is happening in the United States, what's happening in Western Europe, what's happening in Russia, what's happening in China, what is happening in African countries, it's not very difficult to conceive, it's not very difficult to imagine that a very great opportunity awaits India. It has the potential, it has lots of things going for us. As many of you know, the highly energetic young population, reasonable education standards, reasonable infrastructure, and many things which have become worthy of talking about in the last 25 years or 30 years since economic liberalization came to India. So India has tremendous opportunities for very high-speed economic prosperity and a high-speed social prosperity. And it is possible. But I also want to tell you that mere existence of opportunity is not a guarantee for success. Just because opportunities are there, it's not going to happen. And India has to overcome several challenges on its road to economic and social prosperity. And if we don't handle them well, that prosperity that looks immediate in the current may not happen at all or may happen after a very, very long time. Some of these challenges are to do with poverty alleviation, corruption, lack of quality infrastructure, cleanliness on the streets, many education system, healthcare, inadequacy. There are many challenges that India has to overcome. And it is not that actions are not being taken, actions are being taken, but the opportunity that is providing itself because of what is happening in the globe around us is something which calls for our greater urgency to tackle our problems. But among all those problems, there are 2 challenges. Among all those challenges, there are 2 key challenges that I believe are the deal breakers in this game. And if we don't deal with those 2 challenges well, and both these challenges have to do with our behavior and in the social space of our beings. And I'm going to deal with them tomorrow as to what is it that we can do to handle these 2 challenges. And if we don't deal with these challenges well and quickly, what might happen to an opportunity that will probably bypass us without our having taken full advantage of that opportunity. So I'm going to stop with this, and I'm going to not say the names of those 2 opportunities because that will not keep the interest alive. So I'm going to deal with it tomorrow in the evening, and I hope all of you would be there, especially the budding youngsters of business management schools. My thoughts are around the younger generation only because of the fact that you are the people of tomorrow and you are the people who are going to change it and who can change it. And if we realize, the problem with these two factors is that many of us, many including all of us senior people sitting here, don't immediately recognize them as problems. That is the problem of those two factors. And I will deal with them tomorrow. Once again, I want to thank the KMA for inviting me here and giving me an opportunity to share my thoughts, which hopefully I will do tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for that great tease there, about opportunities. We really look forward to listening to you tomorrow. Ashok sir, through light, or rather touched upon, the impact one person can make if you have a long-standing career with one organization. Our next speaker, our keynote speaker, is a corporate honcho who's completing 3 decades of service with Tata Consultancy Services next year. He is now the Vice President and Global Head of Analytics and Insights at TCS. As we are all set to celebrate the International Women's Day tomorrow, let me also tell you that this leader is actively involved in promoting diversity at workspace, and that includes heading TCS participation in the United Nations Global Solidarity Movement for Gender Equality, He for She. Presenting to you, Mr. Dinanath Khulkar.
Good evening. Those at the back, good evening. So dignitaries on the dais, dignitaries off the dais, all the participants on this convention, dear friends. When I was given this opportunity to come and do the keynote, obviously I felt very honored, primarily because my dear friend Captain Raghuraman was supposed to do this. And it's a matter of pride that when a soldier goes into the front, there are people like us who stand up and say that we can be here and be present at this event. And I was reminded of a very interesting, he had actually come and spent a day with us, talked about leadership and various aspects about leadership. It was phenomenal. And I said, let me try and make up for his absence and come at least some percentage closer to what he would have created as an impact. So let me give you a view of what I have put together. It's a set of pictures. I'm going to tell you some stories. And I hope you like those stories, and I hope that someday your stories will be talked about when you have the subsequent versions of this convention. So there are two very important words out here. One is about global, second is about Indian. And nowadays, anytime when you ask about a topic or any theme, everybody wants proofs, right? Everybody wants proofs, yeah? So I said, let me put some proof points in front of you. Some Indian origin leaders who are or were heads of some of the best brands globally. So we've had Indians who have gone to the globe, have made an impact. And I don't want to call out the names, but I'm sure each one of you recognize these greats, and they've made a phenomenal amount of impact. So we have proof points about Indians having trotted the globe and made an impact globally. Different field, from corporate world to science. And you can see some of these folks out here. There are Nobel laureates, there are great scientists, my mentor, Dr. Mashelkar, Kalpana Chawla, and you name some of the biggest names in science and technology are over here. They actually made a difference to the society through their work and the impact that they created by creating a generation of scientists which are making a difference to the new India. A third dimension, Swami Vivekananda. And I'm sure many of you still get goosebumps when you hear his address at the Chicago Convention. Completely transformed the way the world look at Indian spirituality. And you can see some of the images which are at the bottom of the slide is about India taking yoga global and celebrating the International Day of Yoga. Another area where India has proof points of having made a global impact. And the reason I'm sharing this is the diversity and the type of varied areas that Indians have made an impact is something that we should be very, very proud about, and then look up to these people as role models and opportunities for each one of us to make an impact. Let's shift over to some other areas. And I'm sure you'll see quite a few known faces out here, including some of your favorite actors and actresses. The film industry, the type of impact it has created globally is phenomenal. I remember in 1994 when I was in the US, and we used to really struggle to get the latest movie into a movie theater and go and watch a latest movie would come into the theaters in the US probably a few weeks down the line. And same thing would happen when it is to be an American film which comes to India. And some of these guys have completely transformed and created a huge impact of Indian film industry globally. My friend Mahesh Kale happens to be a very good friend of mine, very well-known vocalist, based in the Bay Area in San Francisco. He studied engineering, he did his master's, and today he runs the Indian Classical Music Academy Foundation. And he has a one focus to take Indian classical music to the masses. And he's done some amazing work. The type of focus that he has in taking Indian classical music to different heights with one particular focus that there is 1,000 years of legacy that we need to take to the masses. You have sports personalities. That's the other field which you should look at. The type of impact that these sports persons have made on the global footprint and the type of impact they make to many people, the inspirations that they are for many people globally. I have many of my friends living overseas, their clients in the UK, in the US, and you'll be surprised at the level of idealism they have for some of these sports personalities. The leagues in India. How many of you know that the fastest growing industry today in India is the sports industry? You should actually study the successes that each of these leagues have made, especially the IPL and the business models that have evolved and the type of impact in the entertainment industry the leagues have created. And it has given a tremendous amount of momentum to the aspirants in the sports world within India. And I'll talk about the Tata Group and TCS. So about 150 years back, a person by the name Jamshedji Tata created a small startup. And Sir is here who took over that legacy and ran that and the type of impact it has made to India and to the globe. And about 100 years later, JRD Tata decided to fund another startup called TCS. And we had the doyen of the Indian IT industry, Mr. F.C. Kohli, who still today, 95 years of age, comes to office, spends a few hours in office, and thinks about what needs to be done for the next generation and what needs to be done to take India to next levels. So this is the type of legacy that we are. We are very fortunate to have such a fantastic legacy. We should all be proud about what these people have accomplished. And then look at where we stand today. And I felt it was very appropriate to pick up these lines from A Tale of Two Cities, which was, if you look at the year, it was 1859, quite a few years back. And you look at some of the messages which are there, and when you reflect upon these messages, you'd find, hey, look, is it 1859 or is it 2019? Very much similar to where we are today. It is a time where there is so much amount of opportunity, at the same time there is so much amount of pessimism all around. And I felt it was very important to reflect upon this particular set of lines and take the next set of points which I would like to table. And some of my earlier speakers talked about the data points. But what I wanted to do is give you a perspective that India is not only representative of all of you who are here. Let me give you a more detailed view of what that India is. So these are just some data points which I'm sure you would have heard, and throughout the 2 days of the convention, you will keep on hearing these data points. Let's look at this young population and let's look at what are these aspirations. And that was the other aspect which we were all going to reflect upon. What are these aspirations and what are the young generation looking at? So they're looking for job opportunities. They're looking at what all areas should I upskill on. What are the type of guidance and mentoring will I get? I'm entering a digital era. I'm entering an industry 4.0 era. The folks who are all here are from the earlier era. Will they really be able to provide me that type of guidance? That's the type of questions the young generation is asking. And I have been in this industry for about 30 years. I have done various roles within TCS, so I have probably done multiple roles within the same organization. I have also been very closely involved with academia, and I have taught in engineering colleges, in management schools for close to about 20 years, and I've been very closely associated with youngsters and their aspirations. I have been involved in a lot of interns who come and spend time with us during their summer vacation, during their last semesters of engineering and stuff like that. So I have a fair idea about what the young generation looks for. But let me also give you a feel of what that space is. Here is a picture of a girl, and this is a very interesting academy which is in Pune, and these are all experiences that I have gone through, and these are examples that I'm quoting of things that I have seen, I have been part of, and I want you to appreciate that about development is all about inclusive development. And there are these girls who are part of academy called Avsara Academy, set up in Pune by a person who actually decided to move from the US, relocate to India. She was the author of a very famous publication called BRICS 2020. Her name is Rupa Purushottamam. And she set up this academy with a very focused agenda of creating leadership talent in young girls. This is not about education. This is not about just providing education to girls from the underprivileged in the society, but to build leadership talent. This school is an IB curriculum school. It is one of the topmost educations that you can get in India. It is for the 7th grade to the 12th grade for the girls. And I would love if some of you, if you come to Pune, I would take you and get you to experience things. Some of these girls, if you look at them when they came into the school, and I've been involved right from the inception since Tata Group and TCS funded the first building which was set up in the academic campus. So I've been involved along with Chandra and some of the other TCS colleagues right from day one. These girls are very high on aspiration. The term Avsara is about the opportunity. And I can tell you that they have grabbed the opportunity with both their hands. When you interact with these girls, you will find that they are able to speak the English language to such a degree of fluency that it actually puts some of my colleagues to shame. They actually organize events like these on their own. And the phenomenal aspirations that they have is just amazing. It is about this set of girls who I believe future of India lies in, where we look at building leadership qualities. And I'm sure some of you, when you are go and talk to them, they will come up with some of their aspirations and share with you what they want to be. So this is about inclusivity, about looking at how do we bring in this set of people into our mix when we look at the global Indians with high aspirations. Another friend of mine, he is from rural India. He comes from a place called Latur. Some of you probably might have heard about this. A person who came from Latur had, till his 10th grade, never had an opportunity even to travel in a bus. Goes and does his chemical engineering from ICT, goes to IIM Ahmedabad, then does his internship in Africa. And one of the things which bothered him was that there are many such aspirants like me who have come from rural India who possibly are very shy about when it comes to going to urban India. So he created this initiative which is called the Rural Digital Rural Connect. So primarily looking at providing the people in rural India the ability to connect to the urban population. So some of us have been very closely involved in this initiative, and what he has done is a very simple thing. He's created a cyber cafe like setup, which is a community hall within the village, and we are able to connect to the people over there over a Skype or a chat or any of the communication networks which is providing that. The opportunity over there is phenomenal. The people over there in the village have got digitally literate. They are now connected with the people in the urban areas, and today they are not shy about how do I bridge the divide between the urban and the rural. And those are the type of things that people are doing. Inclusivity will talk about rural India and how these people can be brought onto the fold to be part of that aspiring Indians who want to look at the global economy. The third set I want to talk about is people in the cities that we live in. You'd be actually surprised that when you look at, we are very fortunate. We are probably in the top 5% or top 10% of the world, the privileged people. If you just walk around in the cities, you will be surprised to know the number of hutments, the number of slums which are there, and the people who live there. And the people who are there are also a very inclusive part of our society. When this initiative started in Pune, it is called the Pune City Connect. It is a private and government initiative focused on digital literacy. So while we went on the rampage on saying that everybody will have a mobile phone, we will be able to connect digitally with the world, nobody thought about the fact that there are quite a few underprivileged people will not even be able to be digitally literate. Forget about having literacy, they will not have the digital literacy of providing themselves an opportunity to do digital transactions, payments and stuff like that. So this initiative run by one of my friends, Ruchi Mathur, who is the CEO of this setup, has an amazing impact on the society. So they have various mechanisms by which they are creating digital literacy. They have a setup called Lighthouse, which is a place where the youth can come together, and there are a lot of us who go and interact with them, provide them an opportunity on how they can upskill themselves and be ready for the next stage. So the reason I wanted to bring these examples is that don't necessarily get short-sighted or narrow-sighted on what you see. Go out there and look at where are the Indians, where is that inclusivity that I need to worry about and focus on when I look at driving the overall aspirations of the next generation of India. Moving on, let me give you a perspective of TCS and some of the things that we are doing, and give you a view of how is the industry changing. And I was discussing with Mr. Ashok a while back, and as you all appreciate the fact that we call this as the Industry 4.0 era, and we've seen the evolution of the Industry 1.0 and when the steam engines came in, Industry 2.0 when electricity came in, Industry 3.0 when computers became mainstream, and Industry 4.0 which is the current digital era. And we put out a message into the market saying that we need organizations to be ready for Industry 4.0, and we created a framework called Business 4.0, where we looked at organizations embracing risks, not being afraid of looking at different aspects of cyber threats and things like that, but look at them very positively and embrace risks. Look at leveraging ecosystems. There is tremendous amount of ecosystem which is getting built. How do organizations leverage that ecosystem? Look at mass customization. As I mentioned, every individual is special. Every individual organization needs special treatment. How do you mass customize that? And then look at exponential growth. And what better place than India to drive exponential growth? As an example, anything that you do in India will have that exponential factor because of the type of population and the type of diversity that we have. And being an organization which has been driving technology transformations, we said an organization has to be an intelligent organization, has to be agile, has to be driving a significant amount of automation, and to leverage the cloud. So that's the Business 4.0 framework that we've been driving. And I would like to give you a perspective of, we said while organizations will get here, what do we as an organization need to do to enable organizations and the society adopt to the Industry 4.0 era. So what have we done? We took up the focus on digital literacy and driving this through the World Economic Forum and inviting a lot of partners to join us in this entire journey. So the Pune City Connect initiative, TCS is a very proud sponsor of some of the initiatives over there. And there are quite a few partners who are involved in this, driven through the World Economic Forum. We looked at the folks that we would hire. So rather than just waiting for the academia to look at what is the changes which are happening, the leadership team of TCS, including our new CEO who took over once our earlier CEO moved over to be the chairman of the Tata Group, the first thing that Rajesh Gopinathan said is that we should take the onus of creating a completely new curriculum which is aligned to our Industry 4.0 themes. And we've launched this curriculum earlier this year. We've got it through the entire setup of AICT and got it approved. The next year, we have made this curriculum available for all the colleges to adopt. This year, we are piloting it with 3 colleges, one in Coimbatore, one in Kolkata, and one in Pune. So that's the type of impact that we're making by taking the step of not just waiting for things to happen, but take the lead and come up with curriculums which will be for the next generation. The other area is about doing innovation. Many of you have heard about the Kumbh Mela. Just recently, I'm sure many of you have seen the video that is getting circulated on how we use drones for the concluding ceremony of the Kumbh Mela. But the Kumbh Mela is a very interesting phenomena which happens. And the problem space that we looked at initially was the Kumbh Mela which happened in Nasik. Nasik is a population of 1 million. And at the peak, when the Kumbh Mela happens, the population of Nasik swells to about 10 million in a very, very short window. And the type of challenges which would come up creates a lot of societal, health-related issues and various challenges which are much more beyond people to imagine. Based on that as a problem, we created a focused effort which was called Kumbhathon, which is the Kumbh Mela and Hackathon as a combination. And the success of that particular initiative, which was done in partnership with MIT and one of our friends from MIT, we felt that it was a great opportunity for us to create a platform for young Indians to actually come and innovate. So there came the idea of creating a digital impact square. So this is a setup which is in a place called Nasik, and we have young entrepreneurs who come there. We have people from the TCS fraternity who are guides and coaches for them to come up with their innovative ideas. And they work very closely on problems which we define which are having a very high societal impact. At the same time, we look at this as an opportunity to create the next generation of entrepreneurs and let them own the IP that they create in the digital impact square. So that's the type of innovation platform that we've created. Digital Nerve Center. This is a very interesting initiative which has been launched along with the National Cancer Grid. One of the things that we have been doing is supporting the cancer hospitals, both in Mumbai and in Kolkata, and there are a few more which have come up thanks to a lot of effort and sponsorship from people like Mr. Ratan Tata. But we thought we need to bring in a lot more connectivity to the patients. And this idea came up with our core competency of having worked on connecting with customers. And we brought in the Digital Nerve Center, which helps connect the doctors directly to the patient through an intermediary which sits in this digital nerve center. Something which is very close to my heart, we went and did something very unique. Many of you probably have heard about the state of Saudi Arabia. Women, till about 6 months back, were not even allowed to drive. If you go anywhere, you have to be accompanied by a close relative, and they define what that close relative has to be. Few years back, along with one of our customers, General Electric, sponsorship from the Tata Group and TCS, we created an all-women center in a place called Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. My business had the largest presence over here, and we scaled up this center to close to about 1,000 women working there. And again, it is about the entrepreneurship and the thought leadership that we brought in, that we've created a very good, vibrant setup and belief in this population, which earlier didn't have the opportunity to get into the corporate world. Creating an all-women center where you would have very strict compliance norms, where people had to adhere to the policies of the land and stuff like that. We've created a significant amount of impact. So some of these initiatives have given us tremendous amount of confidence. We've created a Tata Innovation Center in the US along with Cornell Tech. And the reason I'm highlighting some of these areas which are giving you a feel that when you talk about global, an organization has to think global, because our customers are global, our employees are global, our stakeholders are global. We have to also make the right type of investments globally. And this was an investment which we did along with Cornell Tech. The December of 2017, many of us were there for the inauguration. And many of our customers and many of my TCS colleagues work in this innovation center to generate the next generation of innovations. Some very interesting initiatives that I'm driving personally, and this is being done in my other role that I do as my commitment and volunteering with IEEE. One of the things which Mr. Kohli, who happens to be a very good mentor to me, told me about 2 years back. I remember going to wish him just before his 93rd birthday. And he told me that, look, the biggest disruption which is happening is all happening in areas which really doesn't matter to India. What have you guys done for agriculture? And while we were running a very interesting initiative called M-Krishi, I felt very strongly about that area. And I felt that we have such a large pool of engineers which are being built in the organization in different parts of the world, in India. Does any of the engineer really know about the pains of a farmer? And there came in the idea of creating a very interesting project called a special interest group on affordable agriculture. So today we have got funding from IEEE Foundation and IEEE Humanitarian Committee. And a lot of TCS experts as well as experts from Agriculture College and a few NGOs and few biotech firms are working closely with us. And who are actually doing these projects? These are students of engineering colleges. There are about 30 different projects which have been started in partnership with 6 different engineering colleges. In 6 months time window, we have got about 300 odd students aware of what really engineering solutions can be created for a farmer. Some of these projects are very innovative. When we organize a convention like this for them, though at a much smaller scale, I'm very proud to see the type of impact that they're able to create with their thinking, their ability to engineer new solutions. And I believe that this particular initiative can take up a much larger scale as we are able to get initial results out of this effort. The second initiative, and this is something which Dr. Mashelkar, who is very close to me and based in Pune, gives us a lot of challenging problems to work on. And one of the things he keeps on telling me is that an engineer without empathy is not going to make an impact in the future. And he says an engineer needs to be a whole brain engineer, cannot be a left brain engineer, has to have the right brain and has to have the empathy. And he has been very much an advocate of what we call as STEM to STEAM, which is the inclusion of A, which is arts, into the science, technology, engineering and maths. And we've created a very interesting project where we are taking the museum of, which is the Raja Kelkar Museum, as an anchor and getting students of engineering colleges and some of the B schools together to look at how do we transform the complete experience of anybody who visits the museum. Today, a footfall in the museum is very, very low, and we are having an objective of looking at how we can actually transform the entire museum, where engineers will come to the museum and bring in digital technologies, where people who are studying culture, arts, heritage will come in and appreciate the technology, at the same time create an appreciation of arts and literature and heritage to the engineers. And we will create a completely different experience for the people who will come into the museum. More importantly, it will seed in that particular ability of an individual to learn and appreciate arts, and hence create that next generation or next breed of engineers who have to think design, who have to think about arts, and who has to think about empathy when they talk about creating next generation solutions. The third area which I have been involved with, this is a new initiative which we just recently started. There are about 100 cities which have signed up for the smart city initiatives. And one of the things which we are doing as part of the Tata Trust initiative is that we have been helping those smart city initiatives on some areas where we can help them on technology and contribution that we have as core in the Tata Group initiatives. And one of the areas which I am closely associated with is the area of data. You'd be amazed to know that who has the largest amount of data? It is the governments, it is the federal government, it is the state government, it is the municipalities, it is the rural areas. They have tremendous amount of data which is there. And what we created was a very interesting initiative along with IEEE Computer Society, is get students of engineering colleges and other disciplines to look at the different data sets and then come up with ideas which can actually solve problems. So some very good examples, and they've been running this hackathon every weekend. So they go from one college to another and create these type of hackathons. And they were telling me about these solutions that the kids have been able to create. And we have the chief data officer of the Pune Municipal Corporation office, one of my colleagues who is been seconded over there. And she comes up with these different problems. So the problem they worked on was on tree census data. And many people out here wouldn't even know how many trees were there in the state of Kerala or the city of Cochin 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and currently. But there is a tree census which is getting done. And they came up with very interesting areas of mapping the tree data, tree census data, with the geospatial data, and identifying which areas the depletion of the trees have been the fastest. And hence coming up with potential areas where there could be respiratory issues because the quality of air could be lower because of the depletion of trees. Some amazing things coming out of just the usage of data, and I plan to take this particular initiative at an India level, working along with some of the Ministry of IT and other things which are definitely looking for some cool solutions which should come out. And the reason I'm bringing this out is for all of the management students out here, there is tremendous amount of opportunities in India. You just have to look around. You have to go there on the ground, look for some of these initiatives which are there. There are tremendous amount of things which are happening. And, the Atal innovation and the various, just last weekend, there was the India Hackathon, and I'm getting a lot of updates on various students who have won awards and stuff like that. There's tremendous amount of opportunities. There's tremendous amount of opportunity to take things, build it for India, and ensure that whatever you will create will be of such a good quality because you have the scale in India that the globe will look back to you and say, hey, you have created this solution for India, and hence it will work for anywhere else in the world. I think that's the bigger opportunity. So I'll come to the concluding part of my keynote about what does it really mean and what is really changing when it comes to the workplace itself. So the workplace itself is changing tremendously. So if you look at when I started 30 years ago, and my friend Dinesh also probably can remember the way we used to work in those days, to what we are experiencing as a change in corporate India is a phenomenal amount of change. The type of cultural shifts which we have, the workplaces which we have is completely different. The type of people we have in the teams, the type of interactions we have, the type of solutions that we create is much more different as compared to what we used to do earlier. So what is important is that we as individuals, when we study, we are always focused on ourselves and creating solutions and answering back or answering questions which are asked in the exams. But the game is all about collaboration, and game is all about the open collaboration. So what are the different types of behavioral changes that one needs to be doing to yourself to be able to work in that type of an environment? And when we talk about collaboration, it is not about just collaboration of 5, 6 people sitting in a room. It is to be looking at how do we collaborate in the global economy, and when you have teams which are spread across. So I've had the fortune of working on various engagements where I have customers who are global, my teams which are global, I would interact with people with different cultures. How do you appreciate different cultures? How do you appreciate what appeals to an individual, what is core to the culture or sensitive for that particular individual is very important. So it's not just about collaboration, it is about what is the type of sensitivity that you build towards cultures and the diversity in which you will work in the global economy. So we earlier had a very hierarchical structure, and you probably appreciate the fact that when you have an hierarchical structure, you will always have teams, and then you have managers, and then you have another set of managers. A lot of things are changing. There are different types of communities that are getting created. So when you look at the next generation of management principles that you will come up with, we'll come up with different types of opportunities, different types of structures in the organization. And it's very important to understand what's the type of shifts that are happening in organizations. Last year, I was spending time along with my CEO and some of his leadership team visiting various companies. And I was very impressed with the type of cultures that each company had, and I was specifically impressed with what Google does. Google allows any individual to pick up any problem which is there, and the tagline over there is, if it is my problem, if I can solve it. And you can just go and nominate yourselves and say that I can solve this particular problem, include me in your project, and I will start working on it. So those are the type of things which are happening in the world, the type of work environments that people work in, breaking down the boundaries. There is no leader who sits in an office. We all sit with our teams in a very agile workspace, do solutions. We'll have a completely newcomer who will come and crack a problem and say, look, here is a solution that I have in mind. And we will be very open to looking at those type of solutions in a much more different way. So that's the type of change which is happening. Transformation in learning. So we, when we started off, working in the IT field, it was very much a very new area. As the industry evolved, we became very specialized. People became very focused on certain set of technologies. But in today's world, you just can't be a specialist in one technology. You have to know multiple technologies. And you would be amazed at the pace that we as an organization have grown and how we have transformed ourselves in the last 3 to 4 years. A very interesting data point, we are a 420,000 member organization. And of this organization, about 2/3 of us have gone through a complete reskilling over the last 2-3 years. It is probably one of the largest reskilling initiatives being run across the globe. In the TCS leadership team, in the last 24 months, except 3 or 4 leaders, every other leader has gone through a leadership role change, including myself. And what does this mean? The learning agility of the organization has to be tremendously high to be able to enable that type of a change. Having gone through that change, our market capitalization increased 40%. We've reached a double-digit growth from the last 2 years as compared to the last 2 years where we were doing single-digit growth. Despite of having such a large change, despite of having gone through a significant amount of reskilling, we were able to deliver that. Proof point enough for us to give that confidence that what corporate India requires is a very large scale adoption of reskilling, and that would make a very big difference. We've created platforms so that the enablement of the reskilling can be done. So rather than thinking of ourselves, we created these platforms, which is the ION Digital Hub, which is available for many of the organizations to avail of. We've created various certifications. So whatever certifications we go through, we put up those certifications out for in the market at a very, very affordable price so that a person can think that I or as an individual am capable enough to be recognized as a skilled resource in the corporate India. This is one list of top 10 skills which were published as part of the World Economic Forum. We keep a track of what these skills are and how these skills are changing. I won't go into the details of these skills, but it's very important to keep a tab on how these skills are shifting, what type of skills are becoming high priority, what type of opportunities which are there, because this will drive where we will skill, where we will enable people to get interested in specific areas and make them look at some of these technologies and adopt these technologies without having the fear that this particular technology is difficult. And the biggest confidence that we have is that if my 85-year-old father the day demonetization was announced, the first thing he told me is, I want to go completely digital. And I enabled him with all what is required. He doesn't make a single payment on cash. Okay? So the fact that my dad at an age of 85 could adopt digital technologies at such a fast pace, the confidence in digital as an adoption mechanism is phenomenal. And I think that is the opportunity for each one of us to look at how digital can become mainstream and be used across the entire society. So question remains, what do you do as an individual, or what do I do? And I ask this question to myself, what do I do as an individual? So be aware. First of all, be aware of what's happening and look at the solutions which are being created by people, look at the type of opportunities which are there, go and look at what type of problems people are solving, go and look at the type of challenges which are going to come up in the future because of the type of advances which will happen. So don't stay within your remit, go and explore, go and be very innovative in looking at finding out ways of solving some problems. And those are things which I would encourage each one of you. And the examples that I made and showed to you, these are all my own experiences. I decided at one stage saying that I should go out and explore. I was limiting myself to my world of TCS, my customers, doing some volunteering with IEEE. But when Mr. Kohli told me, go and look at what the farmers are facing, when Dr. Mashelkar told me, go and look at how do you bring in arts into the mainstream, I decided that I should be aware and I should be very much immersive into that particular change. Become a Renaissance person. So whenever there is a shift in the industry, and when you look at these industrial revolution, there are some set of people who are able to master multiple skills. I think this is one very important element of there are people who are extremely talented. They can do multiple things at the same time. They can do music, they can do engineering, they can do arts, they can write. And that's the type of personality I'm sure we will see emerge out of this group of gathering. I'm sure that there are more Renaissance men and women which are likely to come up because of the type of opportunities that we see in Industry 4.0 era. You know, I have to be very true to my profession of data and analytics, so I keep on telling learn statistics to people. And the reason is data is becoming all pervasive. I gave you one example of the statistics. And I looked at some of the social enterprises and NGOs who are working. In fact, as the last year and a half, we have been celebrating 150 years of Tata Group and 50 years of TCS. And I told my team, let's do something very unique and let's create something. So they came up with this idea saying that let's collect information about all the NGOs and all the social enterprises who are using data and analytics very smartly in social transformation. And when you look at data and analytics, the core to it is statistics. And I believe that it is very important for us to build that appreciation for statistics, understanding of statistics will be very key. I encourage a lot of people on their right brain skills. Anytime, whenever I have a team meeting and I get to meet people, one of the things which I always ask is, who amongst you is a sports person? Who amongst you plays music? Who amongst you is an artist? Who has some different type of skills which somebody doesn't know? And I believe that this is a very important element, that creativity is very crucial. And innovation is linked to creativity. Innovation is linked to your artistic element which is there. And I believe that A is going to play a very crucial role, and how we develop that skill, or rather how we don't forget that skill. I know that many of you out here have been encouraged by your parents to play some musical instrument, to be part of a drama, for example, or to write, or to be an elocutionist. Somehow, when you get into the mainstream, you tend to forget those. I encourage people to actually look at some of these things. And the work I'm doing along with Mahesh Kale is very specifically to my own interest in the area of music. I said, let me reinvent, let me look at what I can do. And my dad had taught me to sing bhajans and sing devotional songs. And I said, let me reinvent myself. So it's very important not to forget some of the skills that you have and the talent that you have, which can potentially be useful in making an impact. And the reason I tell you this is because we have some very innovative work that happens within TCS. And I was telling Ashok about Refinery 4.0 is an initiative which is being done as part of the innovation we are doing for one of the global giants in the petrochemicals industry. And a lot of people in that set are not necessarily core chemical engineers. They are designers. They are reimagining various things. They are looking at completely reimagining how a refinery should be built, how safety should be looked at, what are the type of things we should do from a data perspective. So creativity and innovation and bringing that art stream into the STEM element is going to be very crucial. So focus on creativity. So, nurture your talent on creativity. And a very interesting thing which I used to always do is that whenever I used to have a gathering of people like this, I used to ask the question, how many of you are creative? And when I used to do it with my leadership team, which is largely people who would be my one down and two downs, there will be a few people, maybe about 5 to 10 people who would say that, yeah, I'm creative. When you actually do it in the colleges, and when I would do it when there are newcomers who are coming into my organization, you'll find that percentage to be much higher, more than 50, 60, 70%, which is what I used to always tell my leadership team, saying that probably we are killing the creativity. So let's give that opportunity. So anybody who would come into my office and say, look, I want to start a music band, or I want to do something very different, and I want to create something, I would always encourage that. So encouraging people to hone that skill of creativity on arts and things like that is going to be very crucial. So all in all, these are things which are very simple things which I believe you can do. Not to forget, the aspirations that you have to be enabled, and these are the enablers for you. And don't have to go and globetrot. Create solutions in India that will make a global impact. And as Dr. Mashelkar in his latest book says, pole vaulting, from leapfrogging to pole vaulting is his book. And last week I had the opportunity to get science meet arts, as I call it, the Jugalbandi of science and arts. I had Mahesh come to my office to interact with my colleagues, and then I took him to meet Dr. Mashelkar and to discuss some of these points that we were interacting with. And Dr. Mashelkar was kind enough to give us a copy of his book. It's a phenomenal book. It's about not thinking of just leapfrogging, which is a term which is giving us that momentum and jumping. Leapfrogging is always linked to a frog jumping to take care of risks or something which is fearful of. But pole vaulting is something which will take care of all the hurdles that you may see while you are running, and you have to plan for it. You have to be very calculative. There is a lot of science in it. There's a lot of arts in it. But we should ensure that we play a role in pole vaulting India into the next generation. Thank you.
So many inspiring examples, all elucidating one simple fact, that challenges all around us are all excellent opportunities. Thank you so much, sir, for weaving a story together on the stage, because we really know that great work inspires greater work. Thank you so much once again. We had 3 speakers, doing wonders on the stage, really giving that pole vaulting energy, not leapfrogging energy, pole vaulting energy to our inaugural session, which I'm sure will, transform our next day at this annual convention as well. So to give our token of appreciation and gratitude to these 3 wonderful men who came here and enlightened us the way they did this evening, I'd like to request the president of KMA, Mr. Dinesh Thampi, to please present a memento to our 3 speakers, starting with our chief guest, of course. Do we have the mementos ready? Yes. Mr. Dinesh Thampi will present a memento to our chief guest, Mr. B. Ashok. Now, our guest of honor, Padma Bhushan B. Muthuraman. And finally, our keynote speaker, Mr. Dinanath Kholkar. I now invite Honorary Secretary of KMA, Sri V. George Anthony, to deliver a vote of thanks.
President of KMA, Mr. Dinesh Thampi, Chief Guest of the Day, Mr. B. Ashok, Keynote Speaker, Dinanath Kholkar, Guest of Honor, Padma Bhushan B. Muthuraman, Convention Chair, G.B. Paul, most distinguished guests of the dais, a warm good evening. It is my profound privilege to propose vote of thanks for the prestigious flagship event of 38th Annual National Management Convention of KMA. We are indeed privileged and honored to have the esteemed presence of the Chief Guest, Mr. B. Ashok, and his words of wisdom. A big thank you to you, sir. We are most delighted to have Dinanath Kolkar as our keynote speaker. Thank you for your scintillating speech, sir. This is indeed a very rare opportunity for us to honor a Padma Bhushan, B. Muthuraman, in our midst as our guest of honor. He will be talking to us tomorrow evening in the validity session. We'll be eagerly waiting for your speech, sir. A big thank you for our past presidents, our other dignitaries, members, all delegates, student community present here. Without your valuable presence and participation, a conference of such magnitude will not have any meaning. Thank you. Event of such scale cannot happen without the support of sponsors. I place on record our heartfelt thanks to our diamond partner, Lulu Tech Park Private Limited, silver partner, Bharat Petroleum, TCS, Petronet LNG, bronze partner, Manappuram Finance, supporters, Cochin Shipyard, V-Guard, and CIAL, visual media partner, Asianet News, magazine partners, Danam, Passline, Destination Kerala, travel partner, Oman Air. Thank you to event managers, Ergo, who did all the background work, MC Adra. Special thanks to all convention committee members and to all staff at KMA Secretariat who worked tirelessly to make this event a reality. A plethora of educational programs organized for you and will start by 9:30 a.m. tomorrow. I'm sure the valuable sessions will definitely enrich and add value to each and everyone. Kindly join us for the fellowship and dinner in the other hall. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, sir. And that brings us to the close of the inaugural session on this stage. We request all of you to join us for the sessions tomorrow, and actively participate in all the sessions tomorrow. For now, we are breaking for a networking dinner, as George sir just mentioned. Please present your dinner coupons at the counter. All those of you who have received the dinner coupons, please present them at the counter. Enjoy the evening.